Hello and welcome to another episode of Ken Training. Today's training, what we're going to do is we're going to install these two slab doors that are right behind me, which are in brand new condition from the Home Depot, and we're going to install them in this casing that is right here. So one of the first things that I wanted to do was I wanted to determine how squared up my casing is. So what I did is I take a framing square, which is this framing square right here, and I just put it along the casing here, and I come up and I see how much of a gap we have there. And there's at least 1/8 of an inch gap just going along the short way of the framing square. If I go along the long way, like that, it comes over here. It's at least 1/4 of an inch to where my finger is over here. On the other side of the frame, let's see if you can see that. It is going down this way, same thing. It's probably 3/8 of an inch. Now, on these two doors that were here, I actually relocated those two doors up to the second level, and I did not have to trim the doors. The reason why I want to change, why I'm changing the doors out, is because this is a 26-inch door and this is a 22-inch door. The two doors that I pulled out were 24 and 24, and that is why I did it this way. So I think the easiest way for me to do this is I'm going to start with the operating door. In this case, the operating door is the one on the left-hand side facing into this master bedroom, and see if I can't get that door lined up and cut with the left-hand door of the one that I pulled off, and then install it and then see how things line up from there. I think that's going to be the easiest way for me to do this. Otherwise, I would have to get the measurements from my out of square frame here and then transfer them onto the door and then do the cutting. But I remember that the door that I pulled out, the spacing on it looked pretty good. So that's the direction I'm gonna go in. So I'm gonna set up my workbench and set up the doors like that, and then take you to that situation. Okay, I brought the old door down because I wanted to see how it was going to line up with this gapping. And here, this is a 1/8 inch shim right there, and this is just a standard shim. So I can see that how much I can go in there to determine how much this gap is. So this gap's about 3/16 of an inch, and this gap here is about it's about 3/16 of an inch too, but it's a little bit bigger on this side than it is on this side. This size gap is a little more. I'd prefer not to have more than 1/8 of an inch, not more than 1/8 of an inch. So I want to move the door higher on the top side by at least 1/16 of an inch compared to this existing door. Since I'm using this door as a template, this measurement here is critical for me to determine how much to cut the other door. So that's why I wanted to put it in place to see exactly how this is lining up. I also pulled off the door hardware, so this way I can lay it down directly on top of the door of the replacement door. So I'm going to do that right now. Alright, I'm putting the door on top of the other door, and the door, I'm not happy with the way the template door is lining up. So I'm going to get my own measurement using this framing square and then trying that, because doing it with this technique, it only wants me to take off just that small little line right there, which is, I can tell it's not going to be enough for me to do what I want it to do. So let me show you what I'm doing. Okay, so taking my framing square, this is 24 inches this way, going this way out it's 16 inches. If I take this and I hold this edge flush up against the frame and I come up slowly, I'm tapping the top of the frame right there. Now you see that gap right there? Hang on a second. I got two 1/8 inch shims right here in my hand. So if I take that, go up to there, use the two 1/8 inch shims, I can see them exactly 1/4 of an inch. The frame is 1/4 of an inch higher on the hinge side. I need to transfer that measurement to the door. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so this is going to be the hinge side of the door. I put an H with my pencil mark. If you remember correctly, on the hinge side of the door, it was exactly, the door was 1/4 of an inch higher on the frame. That's why I was able to put the shim in there while it hit the top of the jamb. So because the frame is higher, I need the door to be longer on the hinge side, higher than the non-hinge side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this side, put it flat, take this side at 24 inches, and I'm going to come out exactly 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, like this. Make sure that that's flat. This is up against the top of the door here. This is right there. That's my line. This is the line that I'm going to cut right here. Okay? That's the line right there. So it starts out at 0 and it comes down to a 1/4 of an inch at 24 inches. Okay? The other line was over here. It's going to be much more shallower. Now, let me show you how I'm going to make this cut. So what I've got is this is a straight edge, and I got a couple of clamps I'm going to put into place, and this here is a spacing block for my circular saw. So I know here on this side of the circular saw I want that to come out flush. On the other side I want to cut it right there at that line, like that. So I'm going to bring this over like this, right about like that. That one's going to go there, this one's going to go flush. I'm going to get my clamps in place, and then I'm going to secure this out and make the cut. So let's get this cinched down. And okay, so that one's good on this side, and on the other side it's right about there. And I can double check that too to make sure I'm going to take off 1/4 of an inch, which is right there. Just make sure I'm good. Alright. Go ahead and put my clamp down, and then I'll double check my measurement one more time. Oops, I think I just moved. Alright, let me get this snugged up. Get this into play. There we go. Cinch that down. Make sure that's cinched down. Double check that. Good. And there's my 1/4 inch. It's actually a little aggressive. I need to come back towards me a little bit. Let me try that. Okay, that's good. Right there. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and make this cut right now. Okay, now that that cut is done, I'm just going to pull off my clamp here and go downstairs and see how the door fits like that. Alright, here's my spacing. I guess I went a little bit too aggressive because I got a 1/8 inch shim right there, and on this side here's 2 shims. Actually, I'm off by 1/8 of an inch. I overcut by 1/8 of an inch because I can get 2 1/8 inch shims here, so I'm a 1/4 inch here, I'm a 1/8 inch there. So I need to take off 1/8 of an inch on the hinge side of the door before I'm going to be happy. Alright, so I got to take the door back upstairs and do that right now. All right, I trimmed it down and I got it tied up against here 1/8 of an inch. Over here, it's a loose 1/8. It's probably almost 3/16. I mean, it's pretty close, but I wouldn't mind taking off 1 more 1/16 of an inch over here. You can see how loose this is up until I get to, actually, whole thing's, it's just a little bit off. So, all right, there's your door after I took off the 1/16. You'll notice that reveal is pretty uniform all the way through. All right, so now that we're good with that, now we're going to go on to the hinges. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a little pencil mark here where the hinges currently line up. Right there and right there, and I'll do the same on the bottom. Then I'm going to take the whole door upstairs and just see how it lines up. Okay, so the first thing I did was line up the door on the hinge side so it's perfectly flat. You can always just take a speed square and go like this to determine if indeed you're up against it perfect. Then what I did was, I don't know if you remember this, but when I took the template door and put it into the jamb, I remember it was about 3/16 of an inch clearance from here to the top of the jamb. So I wanted this to be 1/16 of an inch shorter. So this is a 1/8 inch shim. So I'm looking at this and I'm just saying, okay, that's about 1/16 of an inch down. So when this door goes in, that'll suck up that 1/16 of an inch distance there. Alright, so now that the doors are lined up, I'm just going to take a pencil and my speed square, line it up against the jamb, do that. Same thing on the other side. Alright, that's a little bit in my way. Let's see if I can't get that just right. You really got to be precise when you cut in your hinges because the distance on the casing doesn't change. Okay. Let's see how that lines up. Actually, let me do it that way too. Let me do the same thing over on this one. It actually worked out pretty good. It's the same line. Okay. Now I'm going to see how that line works out with the lines that I made. Now, look here. See the lines that I made using the door jamb? The door jamb lines are just off, I don't know, they're in the same center mark, but they're wider this way. So I'm going to be using this as my guide. Same thing on the other side. Let's look at this one. Now this one over here, whoops, wasn't quite so, it's actually, it was as if I'd cut it the whole thing too high. So, but I'm going to use these lines as my guide. You can see how difficult it is to try to, without a template door, yeah, just trying to just use the method that I used with these lines would be, I think it would be off. Okay, so this is the tool that you want to use to cut the mortise in your hinges. This particular tool I purchased at the Home Depot. It's a Ryobi. There's your model number right there. And it does not have too many adjustments to it. Now, let's go through it. So this one here is if you're going to, depending upon the size of your hinge. So, you know, if when you push this down and move it, you can go out on your hinge sizes depending upon the size of the hinge that you purchased. Now on my hinges are 3.5 inch. So that's why I have it set at the 3.5 inch mark for that distance. This here is just a, I don't know, it's like an extra guide for your router to rest upon when you are routing. And it's not quite sitting in flat. Hang on. There we go. There we go. Snaps in so it's nice and flat. All right. This radius here is for when you do 5/8 inch hinges, which my radius is 5/8. If you had a different radius, oh, I forget which size it is, a 1/4 inch radius or something, you would pull these out, and then, let me show you here. If I can do it, it should snap out. There it is. So then if you were to radius like that, it'd be a little bit tighter. But since my radius is a 5/8 inch radius, that I need this particular tool, this curve in here, so that my router properly routes that out. Now let me show you. So here's my package of hinges. And you can see right there, 3.5 inch hinge with a 5/8 inch radius. And so that is how that works. Now, one other thing. This tool here has a depth gauge on it. Let me show you that. So, depending upon which hinge you have, will determine exactly how deep in that goes. So, this is the thickness of the hinge. Now you guys know that I'm doing a 3.5 inch, so this is the depth gauge that you want to use for a 3.5 inch hinge, and that is for the router. So let me show you how you do that. Alright, so here's my router, which is a Ryobi 1 3/4 inch horsepower router. And so what I'm going to do is, on my hinge, which is 3.5 inch, this is the depth gauge. You take this and you put it down, and you see how that you adjust the router so this way it's so this way it is it comes down and meets that depth mark. So this way, when you mortise in your hinges, you're going in at the proper depth. So that's the purpose of that. So now that, and I already have this already set and locked into place on this router. This is my locking tool for the depth. So I'm completely locked in, and now we just have to put it in place. And let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so here's where the hinge has to go. I got the template door on top, so it's obvious that the radius has to go here at the bottom. So there's my radius there at the bottom. So then I'm going to take that. Let me try to get you a dead end on shot here so you can see it exactly the way that it is. Okay, so now there's my thumb screw. I loosen that up so I can move it, and it has a back and forth. You want to hold it up against the door, up this way. You want to move it left and right so that those two lines are exactly centered in between here and here. So I'm going to do that. Center that is 100%. Then come down with my turn screw until this is stationary and it is not moving. Now the jig is set in place, and now I can go ahead and router. And I'm just going to throw on some hearing protection, eye protection, and router it. Okay, so once you're done routering, just pull off your jig, take a hinge. Now I know the top of the door is that way, the top of the hinge is there, the hole goes on the bottom, so this has to go in like that. So basically, there it is right there, and then that's how I'm going to set that up. Now when I go to actually put this in, what I'll do is I've got a self-centering punch here. I'll do one self-centering punch here in the center. I'll hold off on these two while I place the door in to make sure that I'm happy with the placement. I don't have a hammer right here, otherwise I'd tap that in right now. But I'm going to go ahead and do the other hinge right now. Alright, now that I got my hammer, I can go ahead, take my self-centering punch, make sure the hinge is in there correctly. If there's a little bit of a space there, which there is a little bit, I'll even out the space in the middle. Throw that in. And there's my self-centering tap. You can see the screw hole right there. And that's supposed to be right down the center. So go ahead and put this in. Oops! So I can do a dry fit. There we go. So that's perfect right there. Do the same thing on the other hinge. Alright, here's the door in place on a dry fit. It was awfully tight against the bottom, that gapping right there, so what I did was I put a shim, which is just cardboard from the hinge, up against the frame, which goes right here. So there's a cardboard shim in this section right here. Alright, that made this gap here at the bottom kick out slightly, and it also brought this up. Now, I wouldn't have minded, I would have preferred it if the top of this was just a little bit of a larger gap, but whatever, it is what it is. I'm going to leave that gap the way that it is. So the door on a dry fit is working fantastic. I'm just going to leave that and start working on the stationary door right now and get that in line. Okay, so I put the stationary door in, just a dry fit. I got shims underneath it. I got it almost as high up into the jamb here as possible. So this ultimately needs to come down about a 1/16 of an inch to an 1/8 of an inch. So let's just say 3/30 seconds. Coming over here to the right, you can see how much of a gap that is. That's over an 1/8 of an inch. It's about 3/16 of an inch on the right. I want 1/16 inch here, which means I need to drop this down at least 1/8 of an inch. Well, actually, if I want to maintain this same reveal, if it's hitting here and it's not there, it's at least probably, I probably need to remove about 3/30 seconds of an inch on this side of the door. So, all right, I got the door trimmed. Gapping is good. I got 1/8 inch shim in there right now, but I'm looking at the reveal and it's even going all the way across. If I match it up to this door, you'll notice that there's definitely, well, the way I have it set now with the 1/8 inch shim, this door is sitting a little lower than this door. But for right now, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and establish the hinges and then see where everything lines up after that. Okay, I'm getting ready to cut my hinges on my replacement door. I put the template door on top, matching it up, and then I took the top of the door, and what I did was I extended the replacement door slightly over longer than the template door, so that way when I install the door, that gap up at the top will be a little bit tighter on the replacement door. Then I just took my speed square, which you see right there, brought the lines down from the hinges, and then I put little marks in there to indicate the hinge direction so I didn't get confused. And I did that on both sides. So now all I have to do is just pull back the door and set up my, my jig and start cutting in the mortises for the hinges. Okay, here's the second door in for a dry fit. Now, what I'm looking at is I'm looking at that reveal up at the top, seeing if I'm happy with that. I'm looking at the gap spacing. Well, right now the door is too long, so the two doors will not close without bumping. So I know I'm going to need to make a cut. But I'm also looking at this gapping right here to see if I'm happy with that gapping. And pretty much I am happy with that. The door is operating pretty good, and let me just show you that like this. So if I just take the door and just open it and close it, just as a regular door, I can check the gapping there. I'm checking on this side. This door is already in for a dry fit, so this one's fine. So now that I know that I've got this working really good on a dry fit, and this one too, and now I need to make a cut. So now I need to make a determination of which door do I want to cut, this one or this one. The answer is I want to cut this door. The reason why is because I want this door as long as possible. So that's why I'm going to do it that way. This door, and then close this door here. And then I'm just going to take a pencil and I'm going to put a pencil mark right here all the way down the door. Make sure I got a nice good pencil mark here. Alright, so I've scored it pretty good. It looks like it's going to be a pretty decent cut. Good 1/4 inch there. Let me show you that. Alright, so here's the pencil mark. See how much I'm taking off there? It's almost 3/8 of an inch. Okay, another thing I did was I'm looking at the top of the door to see exactly how much distance there is there. This door here is 1/8 of an inch lower than this door. Approximately, it's a little bit less than 1/8 of an inch. So this door is taller by almost 1/8 of an inch. Let's just say 3/32 of an inch taller. Also on the bottom of the door, I did a measurement on the bottom of the door, and on the very bottom, the door on the left is longer by 1/4 of an inch than the door on the right. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up lowering the door on the right about 3/32 of an inch. That will take care of that gap up at the top and also make the doors a little bit more even at the bottom. And I could remove just a slight amount on the bottom door here to make it a little bit more uniform, because it's out by 1/4 of an inch. Okay, the first cut that I'm going to do is I'm going to take off about a little bit less than 1/8 of an inch here. So I got my spacing block, 1/8 inch of an inch shim here, and then got this straight edge set up on both sides. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut that. Alright, I've got my jig set up so this way I can cut the door lengthwise. And let me show you. So I've got my line there on how much I need to remove. And I've got a spacing block here to let me know exactly how much I'm going to take off. So I'm going to take off about 1/16 of an inch less than that line, so the doors should not bang when they touch one another. So I've got this all locked in, tightened up, so I can go ahead and make this cut right now, and that's it. Alright, here's the dry fit, and so the door is operating perfectly fine. This one's going to be the stationary door. It's going to be locked in here. I have to remove that plate. That was for the old doors. This is what it's going to look like when the two doors are closed. So, not bad. I guess I could have made that cut a little bit longer, but it's perfectly fine as is. See how much? It's about 1/8. I've got about a 1/8 inch gap running down the center here. Okay, so there's the two doors closed, and I still want to take the door on the right, and I want to drop it by 3/30 seconds. That'll make that even out. That's gap right there, and on the bottom that will also even out that, so should be pretty flat going all the way across. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so this is how I'm going to fix this operating door. I want this operating door to shift down 3/30 seconds of an inch. Now you notice I only did one hole for my hinge. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my jig, I'm going to put it on here, and I'm going to go up this way 3/30 seconds of an inch, and I'm going to mortise out this section right here. Then I'm going to do one hole here. I'm going to do the same thing top and bottom, and then I'm going to do a dry fit. Hopefully that will drop the door 3/30 seconds of an inch, putting the door in the correct position. You know, so as a DIYer, I'm allowing that I want to make a correction here, and I want that operating door to drop 3/30 seconds of an inch. So just shy of 1/8 of an inch. And this is how I'm going to go about it. I'm just going to do it just the way I said. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so here's a close-up of after I routed out right here to try to bring this up 3/30 seconds of an inch. Here's a hinge. Now you see that the old location was right there. This is where I routed out right here. Now I'm going to bring it up here so you can see how much it's off from that hole to there. I'm going to take my center punch, and now I'm going to give a hole right here. Let me just get this in nice and tight. Oops. I want to be just right when I do this. Okay. So now, when I go to put that screw in, it'll be right in the center. And then I'll do a test fit with that. This is why I only do one hole at a time, just in case I need to make a correction. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the bottom side. Just going to take this, that's the old location, and now it's going to come up here. It's about 3/30 seconds of an inch, just under 1/8 of an inch, pretty close to 1/8. Alright, get my hinge exactly where I want it, make sure I'm perfect, and then once I'm good, alright, I'm going to go downstairs right now, put the door back on, do a dry fit, and hopefully the door will have dropped 3/30 seconds of an inch, bringing the two doors just about perfect. That's my goal. And that little section on the mortise that I did, once the hinge is in place, if that's the correct location, let me show you. Once the hinge is in place, and if this is the correct location, that will have been my only boo-boo that you'll see, and you really won't notice that. Once the door is all painted white and everything, that really won't make much of a difference at all. But that'll be the only boo-boo that you'll see. Alright, here's your dry fit for the door. I'll give you a close-up on that, but the gap spacing is like perfect now. I actually got it pretty much dead on, 3/30 seconds of an inch. Look at that. And as far as the bottom goes, oops, hold on there. The bottom's pretty close. Let me just do a quick double check on the bottom, just to see where I land. Okay, this door here is about, let me just take a 1/8 inch spacer to see if I'm off by that much. Yeah, this door here is 1/8 of an inch longer than this door here. So if I wanted the two doors to be perfect, I could take off 1 more eighth here. An interesting thing though, looking at the floor, it looks like it comes up this way. So even though this door is longer than this door, the gap is larger there than it is right there. Let me show you that. All right, you see the gap right there? How tight that is? And if I follow that gap across over here, that gap is larger than it is over here. So I'm just gonna, even though it's 1/8 of an inch longer, you know, I'm just gonna leave it. I'm not even gonna trim this door any. I'm gonna leave it that little bit longer. So as far as the cuts go and everything like that, I'm good. I did notice that when I shut this door, maybe hold on, let me go the other way. When this one is like that, it just about rubs right there. But I have to put an Astragal strip on the stationary door, and I'm going to do that right now. So, and I also need to put a Lockset here. So there's a couple things that I need to do. Okay, so first of all, on the Astragal strip, that's this right here. Yeah, I'll probably do it like this so that the pedals are facing up, yeah. And this is going to go right here, and that is going to block, that's going to prevent you from, when the two doors are closed. Let me show it to you like this. Alright, so this is what it looks like now with the doors just sitting in there raw. Now, this Astragal strip is going to go over that, like that, so that way you won't see any sunlight or anything like that through there. So, so this has to get installed on the stationary door. And that is why the stationary door has to always be closed first before this door, because it's going to have this thing sticking out of it, this Astragal strip right here. So what I'm going to do is I need to put a pencil mark right here at the top of the door, and then probably cut it 1/8 of an inch shy there, and then same thing on the bottom. Well, the bottom, I'll just make it flush with the bottom of the door. So whatever distance that is minus whatever distance this is minus 1/8 of an inch for that line. And then that'll be for that. And oh, and the Lockset, I got to work on that. I put a line at the top of that door when the door was closed, so I know where to put my Astragal strip once I do that. Right now I want to work on the Lockset, so let's get going on that. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to shut the doors, and I'm going to measure the distance from here to here. Hang on a second, I'll just use a tape measure here. And I've got a pencil. Alright, so the distance from there to there is about 7 3/4. No, sorry, 6 3/4 of an inch. So half of 6 3/4 of an inch is going to be, what is that, 3 3/8? Let's try that. So if I go 3 3/8, 1, 1, 2, 3, that would take me to right there. Go 3 3/8 up from the bottom. That pretty much takes me to right there as well. It's pretty much the same line. So there's my center point between these 2 points here. Then I'm going to take my speed square, take that line over to here. I'm going to take this line, I'm going to bring it over to the other door, and let's get that just right. Alright. So there that is brought over to the other door. Then I can take that. Okay, so there's that. And then I'm just going to bring it over to the front as well. Make sure that that's perfectly lined up. There and there. And do the same thing for this door. Bring that line over to the front. Make sure my speed square is in place. And there we go. Alright, so now I know that where exactly my lock set is going to get installed on the door. So I have to drill out for the lock set, so I'm going to take the doors off the hinges and take them upstairs right now so I can do that. Before I pull the door off of the hinge, take it off the hinges here and bring it upstairs, I want to center punch and get my screws in so that everything's in the right location. So I'm happy with the door placement. So I'm going to go ahead, get that in, get the screws in to make sure that everything just lines up the way that it's supposed to line up. I want to do that now. So I'm going to basically do that for all hinges. Now that center hole, I have to do a little process to get that. Hang on. Okay. On that center hole there, I don't want to just center punch it and then try to put it in. I need to fill that in first. So I'm going to have to work on that one so that a little bit more. But I'm basically just going to go ahead and do that process that you just saw on that hinge. I'm going to go ahead and do that to the rest of the hinges to make sure that everything's all set. Screws are ready to go. Okay, so I got all the screws in on all the hinges except for the center one there and the center one there. I'm going to fix those up when I bring the door off, take it off its hinges here, and I go upstairs. But then this door here is all set on both top and bottom. There's the bottom, there's the top. And then after I did all that and I got the doors like this, then I go ahead and just do a dry fit. Just make sure that nothing came out of adjustment while I was messing with the hinges. Make sure that everything closes properly. I did it just a second ago. Everything's good. So I don't have any issues with the doors. So now I'm going to go ahead, take them off the hinges, take them upstairs so I can cut in the lock set and then also fix those two hinges on just that center. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the door latch set on. I'm going to use this tool right here in order to do my holes for the lock set and everything like that. And I'm also going to use this tool here, which is for the door latch installation, to make sure that that comes out good. So I'm going to do separate reviews on each of these tools in separate videos. So just click on those links and then you'll see those installations on how to do it. Okay, there you go. There's your, that's how it's going to be installed. You can see that I'm pretty much flush. So let me just take the camera like this so you can see how flush that is. It's pretty much flush with the door, which is what you're going for. I did not chisel it out, so I don't have squared off corners. I have rounded corners, giving you the most professional look you are going to get. Again, this is the Ryobi door latch installation kit. There's your model number right there, A99LM2. And I do recommend this product. And then once your door is in, this is basically what everything's going to look like. In my particular case, I've got white doors and I'm using Schlage hardware. Everything going to close and latch just right. And that's your final product, what it's going to look like after everything is said and done. Okay, I've got my Lockset drilled out on my operating door. You can check out my video on how to install one of those. Now my goal is to work here on fixing that one hole there in the center. I'm going to do that with these nylon zip ties, pair of scissors, hammer, some screws, a drill, and the hinge. So let's go ahead and get going on this. I'm going to show you how to do this. The first thing that I'm going to do, oh, who's this? Somebody's coming over here to visit me. Where is he? There he is. What are you doing over here, Milo? All right, let's get back to this. Okay, first thing I want to do, it's the hole in the center that's not lining up, if you remember correctly. If I put this in, these that are going to line up, that one there is off by not too much, but it's off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3 of these these are very small diameter nylon zip ties. I'm just going to trim off the end just a little bit because there's two different thicknesses here. And then I'm going to take 3 of these and line them up and put them in this hole and push them in as far as they'll go. It's not going in as far as I wanted it to go. Alright, once it's in as far as it will go, then I'm going to take a chisel and I'm going to chisel that so it's flush. Just like that. I'm going to go ahead and hammer that in, get those in as tight as I can. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my hinge and put it in as if it was going to go in. My drill, which is right here, and now in the holes that are good, I'm going to go ahead and drill those out. Not drill them out, but I'm just going to put the hinge in the location where those are at. I got to make sure I've got a correct torque setting here. I don't want to strip anything out. So I just have a torque setting of 3. Now I'm going to put on a drill bit. And I'm going to try to drill right there in the center. Just starting that hole. Once that's done, now I'm going to switch back over to my Phillips. And that should go straight in. Just like that. That is exactly the way I like to do it. And that gives you the best bite and it doesn't offset anything. And now I've got 3 solid anchoring points for my hinge. I'm going to do the same thing to that one over there because that one still hasn't been fixed. But basically you can know the procedure on how I like to do it. Alright, I got the stationary door up here and we've got to get the Lockset in place here. So I'm going to go ahead and use this tool. Alright, now that I've got the holes drilled out for the lock set, I need to put this plate on like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tool here and my hammer. Alright, so there's the latch plate, so that way the lock set will match right into it. I got it nice and flush. This is to tell you how flush I got it. You can see it's pretty much flush with the door. And it looks really professional the way that I did it, because it's completely mortised, rounded out on this edge and this edge, and I just had to chisel out that way. So it's as close to factory finish as you're going to get out in the field. That was using this tool here, which is a door latch installation kit, as well as using this tool here, which is the Irwin door lock set hole kit, installation kit. Alright, so now the door has got the hole saw done on it. Oh, now I got to get the Astragal strip. So here's what the finished product is going to end up looking like here. So I gotta make it a little bit shy of that line, and I gotta attach it to the door like that, but this is ultimately what it's going to look like. So let me go get the Astragal strip and then figure out where we got to put it. Well, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I screwed up. I installed the plate the wrong way. It was supposed to be installed this way, so I want to fill this in. So I'm going to use some plastic wood in order to fill this in and hopefully get that as best as I can, but boy, that's embarrassing. So I'm going to work on that right now. Alright, I put a little bit of plastic wood there, and that is just setting up. The only blessing is that this will be covered also by the Astragal strip. Okay, so on the Astragal strip, which I just have it sitting on top of the door here for now, so there's the line that I originally made with my pencil right there, and then I brought the Astragal strip back about 1/8 of an inch or something like that below that line. And then what I've done is I've just got it clamped to the door. So now all I need to do is just make a cut right there flush to the door, and then it will be flush to the bottom. Alright, so now that that's completed, the Astragal strip is ready to go. I just have to mount it to the door. So let me go ahead and undo the clamp. I have the T-Astragal strip here in place of where I want it. So the first thing I needed to do was I needed to put the lock in. It's just sitting in here loose, just to make sure that this was going to fit and that it wasn't going to hit this. This has a little bit of give to it. So what I did was I pushed it all the way that way. Then I put my Astragal strip in, and then just using shims like this, determine exactly how much space I need in order to set it up. So to have a little bit of a gap there, I'm going to do 5 1/8 inch shims, and that way there'll be a little bit of movement here. So then what I do is I take, let me just back out of the door and give you a full perspective here. Okay, so then what I do is determine, where it's going to go. It's going to be flush here at the bottom. Come out here. Come over here on this side of the door. Put the strips in place, and then just see how everything looks. Make sure that I have enough space here, which I still do. It's not much, it's only about 1/16 of an inch, but it's just going to be paint in there because this is going to be painted. And I want this as far that way as possible. So this is the location of where it's going to go. Now we need to mount this to the door. Okay? Now what I've got is I've got some wood glue and I also have some nails. So we're going to do wood glue and nails into the door. And the way that we're going to do it is that on the on my drill here, I have a nail, and I cut the head off so it could be used. And the way that this Astragal strip works, it has little dimples every so often. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and pre-drill like that into one of the dimples and then sink my nail in there, so this way you really won't even, it'll be completely hidden inside of the door. So that's the game plan. So with that in mind, I'm just going to go ahead, wipe off the door. I'm going to put a little bit of wood glue down here, not much. Just enough to give it a little bit of extra adhesion. Okay, so now we've got that done. Then I'm going to take the Astragal strip and get it in the location of where I want it, which is about here. And now I'm going to go ahead and get the shims and get it exactly to where I want it, and then I'm going to clamp it in place. So I'm going to take the shims, it's going to come down here, and let me see if that is where I want it. It's right about like that. Let me do the other side. Which is right there. Okay, that should be good. Let me double check this one. Come on, bring it out slightly. Alright, that should be good. Now, let me see, make sure the door's got enough space there. There's still a gap there, which is what I wanted. Alright. So the Astragal strip is exactly where I want it. Let me just make sure that I don't have any glue residue or anything underneath. I'm going to wipe that down. Alright, now that that's all good, let me get the door over to here. Take this off, and now I'm going to sink in a few nails and get them down. Let's do another one right about here. Do another one right about here. Now let me give you a close-up on what that looks like. Alright, so here's an example. Oops, come on camera. Here's an example of where I put one of the nail heads. But this, once this is all painted, you won't even notice that. So like there's another one right there. I did one up top here. And so I've got some glue. I've got it clamped down into place. And I've already did a dry fit with the Lockset, so I know that's not going to interfere. So the placement is good. My line is exposed here with a little bit of spacing. That's how much gap there's going to be between the top of the door and that jamb. So there's enough gap there so that it should not rub or anything. And then here at the bottom, I am flush. So all I'm going to do now is just put a couple more nails in here. I'll work on that little boo-boo that I did underneath right there and just get that a little bit better and let this glue set up. I flipped the door upside down, just went over the Astragal strip. I also fixed and put some more wood plastic right there to get that to set up. So I'm just gonna, now that basically I'm just letting the door set up, I'm just gonna leave it sit overnight. I'm doing a door inspection, so as long as I'm just gonna let it set, if there's any more little things, I'm gonna fix those now and let them set up with the plastic wood filler. So I'm gonna go ahead and flip the door back over, do an inspection on that side, and then just have the door sit for tonight. Alright, it's the next day and the glue and everything is all set up. I took the clamps off. I sanded down where I put that wood plastic and then put the plate back on, and after that gets painted, that'll blend in perfectly. You'll never even notice that mistake that I made. Just embarrassing that I made it to begin with. Right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the door downstairs and I'm going to do a test fit with all the hardware, hinges and everything in place to make sure that it fits good. Okay, so here I am doing a test fit. I got the hardware on, I got the doors on the hinges obviously. Closing the stationary door, bringing in the operating door. It latches perfectly fine. Everything lines up exactly the way I want it to. Gap spacing is all still fine. So the next thing I want to do is I want to install this, which is the latch plate, and let me show you that. Okay, so right now the old latch plate came to here because the door was 24 inches. This door is 2 inches shorter, so it's not lining up. So what I'm doing is I'm going to put this in right here. So I already drilled one pilot hole just to get it started. Alright, make sure everything's nice and straight. So when it comes up, it latches just right. Make sure it's parallel with the door. Don't even need a straight edge, you can eyeball this. Right there looks real good. Bring that up to expose the bottom hole. Pilot, screw right there. Okay. and then just sink in the screw to set that in place. Oops. That shouldn't have done that. That should have had a stop to it. For some reason the stop didn't work. Try that again. This is supposed to be an automatic stop. For some reason it didn't catch. Sure why. This one's operating a little weird. Yikes. That's the worst one I've ever operated. I think I'll be going back to the depot to change this out, only because it's operating so poorly. That is the worst one I've ever operated. For some reason I got a defective one. I have no idea why. But it'll be good enough for me to at least install the rest of this, and then I'll have to do a change out, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Okay, so for the plate up here, the way that I'm going to do that is like this. Is I'm going to take some orange tape, put that on the jamb where this should go, which is right about there. Okay, so that's going to line it up right there. Then I'm going to take my plate that it intersects, put it like this to get it exactly to where I want it. Then I'm just going to take a pencil. It's a little hard for me to do this, but if I could, I'd pencil all the way around it. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to hold it in place while I open the door, if I can. Hold on. Almost getting it. I'm going to try to hold it with this shim, or a shim. There we go. Okay. Now that I got that, alright. Now that I got that, I'm going to go ahead and put in, alright, let me just double check that measurement to see if that's good right where I got it. Let me hold it with the shim while I shut the door, double check it one more time. Try not to get it to move. I'm too far forward, it's got to go further back. Too far to the left, it's got to go to the right. This shim is a little bit too fat. Let me try this shim. See if I can get it to work. There we go. Alright, there's two screws here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sink in one screw to see if I've got it before I set the other screw. So first a small pilot, and then I'll put a screw in, and then we'll see if I've got it. Okay. That's actually real good. Just like that. There it is with the two of them. I hate to have a little bit of I hate to have rattle in my door, so I like it to be a little taut. So what I might do is I might just move that just slightly, just to give it a little tautness. Instead of using the drill, I'll do it with the screwdriver on this one. There we go. That's perfect. Now I'll go ahead and set that one. Same technique. Make sure it's good. That works out real good. Loosen that up and I can pull out my tape. Here's a test of the doors, your operating door, excuse me, your stationary door. Lock that into place, your operating door. Everything works out good there. Now, I need to put in one more item. And that is, the other door had a magnet that goes, basically it's going to go right there on the door. There's the packaging for it. So on the old door, that's where it intercepted right there. So now I got to see if that's going to work out for me. So I got to check that out. Alright, so here's the magnet that I just installed. And it latches. I love these magnet things. I wish they made them a little bit smaller because you can see how much gap I have here. That could have been sucked in a little bit tighter, but it is what it is. Okay, so there's your final product. Well, there's your doors rough finish. All I have to do now is finish the doors, which is pretty much just sand and paint 2 or 3 coats of white paint. So, but the doors are operating good. I am going to switch this out because it's just operating kind of not to my liking. I have other ones and I know that this one's just operating weird. So I'll just gonna change that out to one that operates good. I'll have to fix this with some wood plastic there, just so that that's hidden. So this is what the doors look like from this side. Let's see how that Astragal strip hides that that gap that you would normally have. That's why on a double door opening you have to have some type of a Astragal strip there where the doors meet, and it goes on the stationary door just like that. Now this will all be painted white, and I think this one looks pretty. It's got some nice decorative flavor to it, and the way that I hid the nail holes, you'll never even see it. So, and I glued it, so it's on there real strong. So that's real good. Gapping, I guess the gapping underneath the door is a little possibly more than what I'd like, but considering it's a forced hot air system, having the gap there is fine. These are solid core doors, and I gained an additional 2 inches by doing it with this technique. So the other doors were 24 and 24. This is 26 and 22. So I moved that spacing over by 2 inches, giving me on the operating door an additional 2 inches, which really helps out when you want to bring laundry. So many times I'm doing laundry and we don't open that door, we just bring it right through. So that additional 2 inches when you're trying to bring this basket through really helps out, just because we don't open this door that often. All right, I do want to say that as I was reflecting upon this job, and as you guys know, I'm a DIYer, not a professional door installer. I guess because when I was doing the top cuts here, and I did make several mistakes when I was doing my cuts in order to get it to be this perfect reveal. But upon reflection, I think a better strategy would have been to do it like this. Okay, personally, I wanted to start with the operating door, not the station, what I call the stationary door, because this door is the one that locks in place. But on this, starting with this door here, and as you guys, if you guys remember, this jamb is way out. It's not square. It's not a squared up jamb at all. And this is a slab door, not a pre-hung. So I'm dealing with the existing frame. Okay. I think this is how I would have been the best approach for both doors. Take the brand new door, put it into the frame casing. Okay. Shim it at the bottom so that the door comes all the way up. Now, if memory serves me correctly, this jamb goes up this way. So it would have hit right there at the top, and there would have been a gap right there on the right hand side. So then what I would have done was I should have taken a pencil, compass, scribe tool, and then measure from the top of the jamb the gap to the door, and then take that scribe and then scribe it across. That scribe would have been absolutely perfect, matching the existing out of square frame. So that, and when I made that cut and when I brought the door up, that would have matched it 100% perfect. Then I could have put my 1/8 inch spacers in there, and then determined to my hinge locations, and I would have been dead on. And I could have done that for both doors. You know, again, this is, I'm reflecting upon the project and how I could have improved myself. On my next door project, I will do that. But quite honestly, I don't have another door project planned right now. These were my last 2 doors in this house that I planned on doing any work for, and I'm not going to go buy new doors just for demonstration purposes. So if I come across another project, I will do that particular procedure. I think, and if also if you're replacing doors and the existing door works out is already good, just using that door as a door to template is probably the ideal way to go for everybody out there in YouTube land. But all in all, I'm happy with my project. I think it came out really good. And everything, you know, everything works great. The doors work fabulous. I got no complaints, and the finished product looks good. So, you know, it's all good. That's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please click on like. If you're doing door work right now, which I'm assuming you are, watching a door video, I've got other door videos on my channel. You can check out and subscribe to my channel, and that's it. And I'll see you later. All right, so here is from the outside the final product. Here's that Astragal strip that I was telling you about, the nail holes, what you weren't going to see them at all. You see that detail there, and you cannot see where I put the nails there at all. So So there's just the final paint product from the outside. I think it looks really, really nice. I'll show it to you from the other side now. Okay, here it is from the inside, trying to show you the full doors. And that's it. Just nice white doors. Like I said, all the hardware works good. The door magnet works good. When it clicks onto the magnet there, you know, it's really nice operation. And that's it. So that's it for the final video. Just wanted to show you the overall product. That's all.